live.
All right, session 4. We got a little treat for you. We're going to play The Price is Right. We're going to look throughout the audience and have somebody come on down. Brad Brakely, come on down. There, Brad.
Price is wrong. All right. Generally, when I bring in the right-of-way, the lines ain't connected very good. So I found this from it's from SS10. I went and looked for it yesterday. It's called Design File Cleanup, and it will help you connect all these lines together. So generally, the first thing I do is I go into overlaps, make it a color I can see. Not that one. I make the weight nice and big. Same thing with the gaps, yellow and green. Come back here. I usually start with one at a time. So duplicates, hit apply. It will do nothing. Alright, there we go. So there's a duplicate there. We can just delete that line. Now if I run it again, it should go down to 0. That's done. Next one, overlaps. I flag these, apply. Just find all the green spots. Let's see here. I think that was actually a line I just drew. So that one's done. Apply, you see that it's done. Go to the next one. I generally do this before I combine all the lines and everything. So here's the trimmed intersection. They stick out pretty good here, so you can just kind of do them all, hit apply, down to 2. You get the idea. Apply. That one didn't fix. Why not? There we go. That's why you got to check it.
Yeah, it seems like a
That one seems
great time saver instead of zooming way. You know, there's always going to be these gaps when you're trying to complex something, it won't close.
And then you go to the next one, flag it, apply. There's 18 of those. I'm not going to fix all those, but you get the idea. Just come to each spot and find out why it's doing that. It could just be, sometimes there's like a dot there you just got to delete. Otherwise, just connect your lines there. Go through all those. When you get 0, you're good to go, and you can connect your lines without any problems. Good? Any questions?
Can this work on profile view as well?
I've never tried it there.
Okay.
Seems like something to try though. I don't know how well it works with the new geometry lines. Mostly the old CAD stuff is kind of what I use it for before I connect anything. Any other questions I don't have answers to?
Is it design file?
Perfect. Tom? Anything else?
All right, you got to choose between door 1, 2, and 3. A new car. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move on. Thanks, Brad, for that. Okay, looks like on my outline the next thing I had was aerial images. So for quite a few years now, the aerial images have been available. Like, you know, the whole state is flown, like every, I don't know, 3-5 years or something like that. And so you had this grid that you could bring in, and then all the aerials were on the W drive. You know, you find the grid number, you reference it in, and then you had this nice aerial in the background so you could kind of compare the topo to it, things like that. There's value in it. I think some people are even using that aerial actually in the construction plans. At times it's useful, especially if you don't have much topo. But what I found to be really nice with ORD is that with ORD, you can still use those images, but you can also stream Bing, which is, to me, I think it's very good. I haven't had any problems with it. I think in SS10, if you had a license key, you could maybe still do this. But the problem was when you zoomed in too far, the image would disappear, or if you would try to use the image on a sheet, it wouldn't show up. But I've found that even streaming Bing, if I put it on sheets, that it shows up pretty decent. So I'm going to show you that. I think you already know how to bring in the regular aerial images, so let's just show you the Bing, which is very, very simple. And you can do it multiple places, which is good and bad. It's so easy to do it that you tend to do it in multiple files, and then you go to reference in that file, and it's extremely slow. I think Renee had that happen the other day. He was like, I was helping him, I think it was something else, and I was like, why is this taking so long?
It was loading up slowly.
Yeah, it was taking forever. And then I realized, oh, there was a couple files where he did have the Bing or an aerial or something in the background. So I think what you'll find is to work most efficiently and not have to sit there and wait for a file to open and things, is only bring either the image or the stream into one design file, and then just reference that file in and turn the display on and off that way. I think that'll work out a lot better for you. So IDOT doesn't really have a standard name for that particular file. I think they're coming out with a new CAD manual, like very, very soon. Maybe that one will. But for now, I've always just used a name like something like image or aerial, or in some cases I'll have both an image and the Bing stream, and I'll create two of these. But let me go ahead and create a file real quick. Maybe I should have done this in advance. Well, actually, I'll just copy and paste that. And again, it's just a 2D file, so I'm just using that template. Again, I'm not toggling create new version. And then here, I usually still, I guess you wouldn't have to, but I usually still include the D6 contract number. And then whatever you like, aerial, image, Bing, image. Then down here, you might want to specify if it, like Bing streaming or something like that, whatever it happened, whatever you're using it for. And again, just like with a lot of things in ORD, you must have, in order for this to work, that coordinate system must be set. So because I'm using that template file, the coordinate system was already set, and Frank said he's going to take care of that for you guys. So that's nice, because that's always a pain trying to figure out which coordinate system to use. Okay. And I usually just reference in maybe like the alignment just to kind of get my bearings here. All right, so here it is. Could not be any easier, really. I'm going to show you a couple different ways, but the first way I'm going to show you is to go to Raster Manager. File. This is no different than image, right? You go File, Attach, and then normally you say Raster. All you do is drop down to Bing Maps. and it takes a second to load. And then, just like if you were going into Bing, you know how you can bounce back and forth between, it gives you an option of the image or you know the map, or what's the other one, like image with labels or something like that. So you've got that choice on how you want to stream it. The way that you would change that would be right up here where it says Bing Map Layers. By default it's set to road, but most of the time you're going to want to set that to aerial. But even if you start off with road, I'll show you that you can change it after the fact. So even that map background can be handy at times.
Can you clip that?
Can you clip it?
Yeah, just around your jobs.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Let's try.
Right click.
Clip boundary, clip, and put apply. What's my other option? Or maybe I just can't see it. Let's see.
Or maybe you gotta try to fence or something.
I thought I could. Yes, fence an option? Yeah, let's try it with the fence. I think it works. I'm just probably doing something wrong. For now, I'm just going to place a fence around it. And I think that was one of the options. Where'd he go? Oh, I lost it. Where did it go? Is it hiding back there somewhere?
It's behind the element selection window. Click another tool like the
Look on the
reference.
bottom, it's on the bottom,
Oh, you see it?
on the white part, on the bottom on the right,
Bottom.
There you go.
Right here.
over, towards the center.
Oh, right here. Yeah.
Oh. Hey, this is real life. Sometimes that stuff does disappear on us.
Can you minimize view one, behind that?
Jeez.
No, that's okay. Just so we can keep moving on. I could either. This is, we should be able to find it, but I want to, since we're doing training, I want to keep going. I'm just going to get out and back in. Should set that recording up so I could go. It is unpaused, right? Okay, I did a quick pause on the video. We lost our dialogue, so you didn't have to sit through that. At least, if you're watching the video, you didn't have to sit through it. Okay. So now, if you want to change that map to aerial, one way of doing it is to just double-click here. Yeah, it's going to bring up properties. Go to road, Bing Map Layers, aerial. And what you're going to see is it's really pretty decent. I mean, you can zoom in on something pretty close. You know, this was available in the past, but if you got this close, it would just disappear. You know, it was fine from further out. But this seems pretty decent. I don't know.
Got a quick question.
Yeah.
How do you control the darkness?
Oh,
How do you set
transparency.
gamma? I know, but using big maps.
Yeah, if you want,
Do you do properties?
yeah, well,
Space or?
you do it right here in this raster manager dialog. This is one way of doing it anyway. If you had multiple rasters attached, you select the one you want to work with. You go to utilities, click transparency, and then you have to toggle on transparent, and then you can set the transparency to be, whatever you want it to be. I went a little too far with it, so you can't hardly see anything. But I think like 50% is decent sometimes. But yeah, you can just make it whatever you want it.
But will that control both the printing and the view? Because for SS10,
I'm not positive on that. I think so. If not, like through Print Organizer, you can also set the transparency of the raster.
could you also do this in properties?
I think so. Yeah. Let's try.
Yeah, is that at the top?
Let's see. Let me go back and switch this. We'll find out.
Still transparent.
Yeah, it still seems transparent. Oh, okay. It might just take a second to, yeah, I think it's okay now. Oh, it's because I have it set to 50. So I guess the answer is yes. There's 0. Yeah, that might even be easier to do it there.
But Brian, does that necessarily lighten it up?
I think display gamma, there's display gamma and print gamma on images in SS10. I don't know if it's on that.
Is that in the raster manager?
This is where that information box, you just have.
Oh, okay, over here.
Scroll down. I don't know if it says gamma there. Just keep scrolling until you see gamma. The print gamma, display
Yeah.
gamma, right there.
that's
See,
it.
you can change those, so make it higher, make it 2.
Display, probably.
Both of them. I mean, well, the one controls printing, the other one controls display, so it makes it lighter, you can see it up there.
Oh, man. I can't believe I didn't know that. Thank you. Yeah, we're just going to make sure that we are recording. There you go. Yeah, okay. All right, yeah, so that's really it. And then what you do is just whatever file that you want. Usually, I usually, in most all the files that I'm working with, I usually have that reference, not raster reference, but just regular reference. Once you have a design file with that image, then go into all your other files that you like and just attach that as a reference file. And then you'll find that when you're getting in and out of your files, that it won't slow it down near as much as if you set up the image in each one of your files. Oh yeah, I guess I was going to show you one other. Let me show you one quick way of doing it. I'll detach here, and sometimes I'll do that, like if I don't have one of those files set up and I'm somewhere and I just want a very quick temporary streaming in the background, I just go to View Attributes, and then notice at the bottom that this has been added. I don't think this was in SS10, but I can actually just go to my View Attributes, select Aerial, and it should, yeah. So that's like super fast to do that. The only thing is I've noticed that I'll turn it on, I end up causing myself the same problem. I end up doing it in multiple jobs and then it slows me down. So I would say you use this quick little feature of attaching a stream, but if you do, when you're when you're finished with it, what is that? I've been idle for too long. That might be on the computer that I'm remoting.
That's the other file, that one.
All right, hang on, let me be active in that file real quick. Let's see, where was that at? Down here.
No, I mean, it was the other file, that surveys file. You haven't done anything to it in a while.
Oh, I was still in that read-only surveys file. All right, I'll go ahead and just get out of it.
Hey, Tom, can you print with that background map there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's pretty decent. Actually, this is something that I want to look into. There's, this streaming is available. It's very easy to do the Bing, but there's also many other maps, like say a topo map, quad maps. There's a gazillion different types of maps that are available as a stream in addition to Bing. And I haven't done this yet, but I think you can also go to Raster Manager if you know what the link is to those maps. And then you just go File, Attach, and you could point to if it's in an image server or I forget what they call this, web mapping service, I think is what they're called. And there's all sorts of streaming services available, but I think you do have to just set it up in this little text file first. I'd like to learn about that, so I can't show you right now, but to me that would be super valuable also.
Quick question.
Yeah.
What about clipping boundary? Is that possible?
Yeah, you can still clip boundary. That's right. I guess that's what I was trying to do earlier when I lost this thing. And I guess it doesn't show up here if I attach it through that quick way. So I'll go ahead and just turn it off and I'll reattach. Yeah, and we can try to clip. All right, so let's try it as a fence. And then, let's see, yeah, I think I just go to what? Is it edit?
Yeah, clip right there.
Clip. And then use fence. Clip boundary. Oh, click to accept.
Or click outside the fence, maybe.
I think you have to select that.
Let's see.
Oh, it says enter first point, so maybe you gotta redraw.
It's not
You
working
have
for.
to hold it down when you do the block. Like click and then hold and then make your,
Yeah, let's try that. Can I drag it?
yeah, just click and drag, I wonder.
Or maybe just right click.
Oh, just.
You can try working
Off.
image.
Oh, work with an image? Okay. Identify raster to define the plane. I don't know. I think I'm probably not going to spend any more time on it. I'm pretty sure you can do it. Maybe you guys need to go back to your desk, give it a try, and then maybe you could send an email around to the group or something if you figure it out. I'm pretty certain that you can. Let's see, what do we got? 15, trying to see where I was hoping to get to plan sheets today. I don't think we're going to get quite that far, but we got like 15 minutes. So I think we will be able to do a little bit of proposed work, though. So let's do that. Then that'll probably wrap up session 4. And I think for future sessions, maybe I'll go ahead and just create these files in advance now that you know how to do that, so we don't have to take time through the training. I'll just set myself up some templates first. All right, so we're going to do some of the proposed line work, and we still use in ORD a file named design. So we'll go ahead and create that, and then we'll just do a little bit of the proposed work on this job. And we're actually going to do the line work for now using our smart line tools. What you'll see is that later you'll have other options for doing some of your line work if you choose to do this. Personally, I still normally draw in my line work myself, but ORD is set up so that you can run, and we'll get into this later, but you can run a template. You know, it creates the model in the 3D view, right? And when it does that, it also creates those 2D elements, like your edge of pavement, edge of shoulder, all that stuff is automatically created from the template. So you can use that. If I'm doing like a phase 1 or a, some kind of study or anything like that, I don't bother drawing in the line work. I just use ORD, the model, just let it do it. Puts kind of the generic lines out there for me. Puts them on the right feature definition, level, weight, and color. I mean, it's pretty nice. But for now, personally, I tend to still draw them in myself in the plan view, and then when I do my modeling, it overlays those lines, and then I can see that to make it ensures me that my model is in sync with my plan, with what I really want to do. And it gives you a little bit more functionality too when you draw the line. Sometimes if you're using the lines that are automatically produced from the model, you're somewhat limited as to what kind of modifications you could do to those lines, because you really need to change the model for it to change the line in the 2D view. So that's just like a little preview of what we're going to be getting into later. But for now, we're not really talking even modeling right now. We're simply talking if you're getting into your design file, you're getting ready to start your proposed, and a lot of the same steps. We're going to reference in our alignment file, our topo file, our image file, and then we're going to draft our proposed line work in the design file, right? Oops, let's see. So let's bring in we could bring in our topo, our right-of-way, image. Probably won't need the terrain. Oh, not design, that's what I'm in. And alignment. We'll add those, reference those in. I'm doing that individually. I think in class you guys may have learned also a method. If you feel like you're referencing in the same files over and over again, you can create like a container file and then reference that container and set your live. That's something new. We never use live nesting, in the past, but you can use live nesting, and what it'll do, you'll set a nesting depth to like 2, and then you point to that container file, but you can actually see all of the reference files. Did they cover that in class for you guys? Yeah. So, that's optional. I don't normally do that myself, but I do see maybe the advantage of it. In this case, I just referenced each one individually, so I'm not going to do any live nesting for this. That's up to you guys, really. And then even though I like having that image file referenced, most of the time I keep it turned off, the display off. But I just like it to be there so I can quickly turn it on or off. All right. So I guess maybe we'll talk, we don't have much time, but I think we'll just do just a few. Let's do edge of pavement, like edge of shoulder, and maybe guardrail. And so really, when you're first getting started on a project, it's, you got to think about maybe from a design aspect too, of course, not just a CAD aspect. So you are going to want to, do your research. You may have wanted even to kind of start it off with some typicals. You're going to research your old plans. You're going to see what the existing pavement width is. See where the existing HMA shoulders are. And you're just going to need to know, do I plan on doing any widening on this project? If so, that's how I'm going to draft in my edge of pavement lines. It's going to be to the proposed, not the existing. So you kind of need to know that. In this job, it's probably not too unusual from a lot of jobs. It actually had multiple widths. So at the beginning of the job, if the pavement's 13 feet wide, where I'm going to add gutter, the pavement's 12 foot wide, and then through all the other resurfacing sections, the pavement's 11 foot wide. And we're not doing any widening with the exception of in the 12 foot areas. So it's really almost like 3 projects in a way. Like I told you in a previous session that this north section of the job was realigned in 2014, and they went with 13 foot pavement there up until I think it was the PT of this curve. So let's go ahead and we'll start off with that. Sometimes I like to turn off some levels just so I can see a little better what I'm doing. Right now we might not want to see all this extra stuff, pavement markings, and even if I'm working on edge of pavement, I just like to keep it clean. Okay, so what we've got here is on this one side only. This is an existing gutter, and then you've got asphalt shoulder between the pavement, and then on the other side of the road, it's just shoulder. There's no gutter. But what would be the process of drafting in edge of pavement now that I know that my pavement width is 13 feet wide? I'm going to turn one more thing off. Let's see. And even from what we talked about already today, feature definitions, right? So if you're going to draw anything, you know that you would need to, at the very least, set the level, weight, and color, right? We standardized everything. In SS10, there were various ways of presetting your level, weight, and color. Now, in ORD, especially for the main items like edge of pavement, edge of shoulder, we typically use a feature definition, and that feature definition sets that level, weight, and color, all that stuff for us. One thing, if you've done any work in ORD also, which you probably noticed was you can't copy parallel that center line. You're like, you you go to well, you can, but in a different way. You would go to your microstation copy parallel, right? Maybe in SS10. You'd say make copy. You would click on that alignment, but now notice nothing happens. So you can't do that anymore because that alignment, unlike SS10, is not an arc. It's not a microstation arc. That alignment, there is no GPK file. There's no coordinate geometry. That alignment has all the intelligence that the GPK would have had of that alignment, right? So it's really just a visual,
So it's a 3D line string, and you're trying to make
Yeah, well, it is 2D here, actually. You can make it 3D, but it's 2D. But in any case, you can't just copy it parallel that way. And there's no draw transition command like you. Again, I'm talking Geopack now, but the best way to learn ORD is to forget about don't compare the two. It'll make you crazy. Just accept that ORD works this way, and you'll keep your sanity. So, okay. So the very first thing that we do is we go to that feature definition toolbar, and I'm going to do edge of pavement first. So I'm going to make my active feature definition. Roadway, pavement, should be an edge of pavement right there. And so now that feature definition is set, notice if I go to draw a line, and there's two ways I could draw a line, right, in ORD. I could use the smart line, and if I did so, that line is going to have the proper level, weight, and color and all the other information about it. You know, if I select it, it's going to automatically tell me right here what the length is, and of course I can change it. We know these smart lines just work different than a microstation line, and it's not that these lines are replacing all of the microstation lines, not for everything. Just for like the main, I would say the main items like edge of pavement, edge of shoulder, guardrail, those are the main ones. Maybe sidewalk, whatever you think of as the main thing. If you're just doing like a little, closing off the end of like the job ends here, it's the butt joint, you could use a microstation line. But keep in mind, if you're using both smart lines and microstation lines, that this feature definition does not apply to a microstation line. So there's your microstation line. Let's see what happens. So keep that in mind, because you're like, okay, I need to tell it what the level, weight, color is, all this. That only applies to smart lines. If you want to set up your level, weight, and color of your microstation lines, then it's kind of like SS10 or one thing. It's a little bit different in ORD that I do like is you use what's called these templates up here. I think they're called element templates. So for smart lines, you're using feature definitions. For other lines, you're using this. And there is a search in here, which I really like. So I could even type in EOP, which this is pretty nice. See, it took me right to it. And they've got it labeled the same as the feature definition, so it's kind of the same thing. So now when I draw a microstation line, it also has that right level, weight, and color. Okay. So let's delete these lines and let's go ahead and draft in the edge of pavement for this project. Okay, the way that I need to do that, once my feature definition is set, I go to the Geometry tab and I select Offsets and Tapers. And there's a couple different versions of this, and you'll end up using them all. But one is to offset the entire element, and one's a partial, one's a taper, one's a ratio. So it really depends on what you're doing here. Like in this case, I had mentioned that we have 3 different pavement widths, so I'm probably not going to want to copy parallel the whole thing, right? I'm just going to want to do part of it, and this is really different. This is going to take you just a little while to get used to, because even if they talked about it in class, you're probably going to need to hear it a couple times to say, what do you, this is so different. It uses something called, what's the word? Increments, I think. Any case, let me do it. I can show you easier than I can explain it. Single offset partial. I said my width was 13 feet. I can turn on mirror here, yes or no. And I need to select the alignment that I want to be parallel. And then you can see that there's two places I can accept information. Over here in the dialog or in the heads up display that's attached to my cursor. And then I also need to tell it where I want to start this line. And what's maybe a little different about this than what you're used to, normally if you were copy paralleling a line, you would try to get it perfect the first time so you didn't have to go back and trim it or anything, probably. But with this, you don't really think that way necessarily. You normally want more than what you actually need. And I'll show you later why that'll be important. It's because when you trim these lines, there's still going to be a line underneath that line. And let me show you what I mean by this. It takes a while to kind of grasp this particular concept. So I'm going to start at the beginning. I'm going to go beyond that PT, just a little bit beyond, just giving myself a little bit more than I need. I'm going to say yes to mirror. And so now I see that line out there, which is nice. One thing I really do like about this is like when I select it, see how it automatically tells me what that offset is, which to me that's pretty nice. If I want to change it to something else, negative 15, I just change the width. That's pretty slick. And if I'm going to change it and I want the whole thing to equally move over, I need to make sure that I selected that middle choice. Let's see. Otherwise, it's going to only change the one side, and then I'm going to end up with a line that's not parallel. Okay, so let's see. Did I go through this section here? Oh, you know what? This actually goes down to this PT. I need to extend those lines. Let's see if I can. Wasn't planning on doing this, but this, let me show you maybe some more here. So I just drew on that line. I drew it too short, right? So you'd be like, okay, am I going to go back? Am I going to redo it? What do I need to do? But this is pretty nice because notice it's showing me what that ending station is. So one way to extend it to where I want it to go is like I could just type in that station, whatever I wanted, and say okay. And then, so it just extended the line parallel to the alignment down to that station that I typed in. And I guess we're going to have to end here. I guess we'll have to pick up the next session with continuing this since it's lunchtime. But let me just leave you with this, and this is the part that I'm saying is a little bit different here. Is see that line that ran through like a side road. Let's say you don't want that line to run through the side road. So here you're going to use MicroStation Tools, partial delete. And it's going to appear that I'm partially deleting this line, but I am, but I'm not. All right? I'm going to click on it here. I'm going to take it up to here, and I'm going to click on it.
You're just hiding it.
So now what we have, if we were to look in our Explorer that shows me all the elements that's in this file, you'd see that I've kind of created multiple elements now because watch, if I hover over that edge of pavement, it's still there. You just can't see it. If I come up here to this line, this little, I'll have to find out what the official name is. I think they're called like increments or something like that. Interval. Yeah. Thanks. Brad, we're going to have you up here teach.
That's what I've been saying.
You guys need anything about CAD, you know your man right back there. Okay, so they're called intervals, but notice when I click on that interval, it has that little, what do you call that, Brad? That little ending piece? Manipulator. And I can hold down on that, and I can move my cursor, and I can adjust what I'm seeing there. And I guess the whole one of the reasons why they do this sort of thing is, see, all those intervals are still tied to that line that's underneath it. And so if I click on that line and I zoom out, see, it still has all that same functionality that had before I clipped it. You know, if I change that edge of pavement now, not only is that line, you know, underneath going to move over, but even the intervals that are tied to that line move with it. So I think that's one of the reasons why it's done that way. In any case, it's definitely different than what we're used to. It's you'll get used to it though. I've definitely gotten used to it. I like it now, but having used Geopack forever, it did take me a while to get used to it. So, well, hey, I know better than to go into lunch, so let's go ahead and end the session there. And Frank and Cloyd and these leaders of this group will let you know whatever the next meeting is.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Thanks.